And what I mean by 2 and 4 is like just literally, you know, if you're counting like bars. I don't know if you guys read music or anything,
I do.
but you do a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, so if like you have a bar 4/4.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's 4 quarter notes.
Yeah.
You can divide those quarter notes any way you want. You know, 16th notes, 8th notes. So when I say 2 and 4, it's kind of like 2 and 4 on the snare, 1 and 3 on the kick drum, then like 8th notes on the hi-hat.
Okay.
So 8th notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then 1 and 3 on the kick would just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then 2 and 4 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, exactly. Like that feel, like once you can get that pocket down, then you start adding stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll teach you what I mean by adding stuff and what makes a swing, what makes the beat swing.
Uh-huh.
You know, because the only thing that can make a beat swing is the notes you play in between and how they're like I noticed they're using Reason over there or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's got a little swing on their thing, so you can be like, if you put a 16th note right before the 1, so if you got boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, bop, ba-boom, bop, boom, bop. The only thing that's gonna, and if you start adding that kind of stuff, the only thing that determines that is what your swing is and how you interpret those notes to determine how the beat swings and what your feel is. So like in Reason, you can like play around with the shuffle.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have, you can make it go faster, so it's like, or that's straight, then it starts to swing. So it's how you interpret that swing is what determines like how your feel is, and why like you get hired, or like programmers, like beat makers, you know, they got to know this because they got to be like, how do I want this to feel? Do I want to lay the snare drum behind the beat, put the kick drum ahead of the beat a little bit? So like Prince, every time he has 2 and 4, he'll always like put the snare drum way behind the beat and put the kick drum ahead. So it has this kind of quirky, and you're kind of like, whoa, it feels a little awkward. It all starts from there. So, you know, that's why I was just saying that if you can get that 2 and 4 solid, then you start adding stuff. That's when like you can, because I think the coolest way to approach it is like to show that you got the groove, and then you start going off from there. I don't know. I just want to check out everybody's like 2 and 4, and then see what you guys got to add. You want to go first? Yeah. Like take the same tempo, like, you know, like 1, 2. The thing I was noticing is when you started adding extra notes, you were kind of speeding up. So like what I would do is before you even get into like adding something, I would say just let it sit for a while. So you really feel like boom, got, boom, got, boom, got, boom, got. Like just do it again, but let that go for about, let's say 30 seconds. Then start adding something and really just concentrate, you know, on like the time as you start adding stuff. I don't know if anybody else knows, you know what I mean? He kind of sped up. Because once you lock into something, everybody they feel it too, and like everybody can feel 2 and 4. Yeah. So it's just like, if you start like wavering off that, people will be like, oh, like it's slipping a little, you know, nowadays like everything's determined off of machines and stuff, so everybody's programming, and a lot of times they use the quantize, so they're used to shit just being Perfect.
Right on.
Yeah, where the old school stuff, it wavered, but now it's like really solid. Let me check that out again, but just lock into it for a little bit before you add something. Yeah, just stay right there. Yeah, there it is. Stay right there. I don't know, I mean, it felt better to me. I mean, the only thing I'd say is you start doing anything, really think about the time. What I would always hear in my head, you sing something? I mean, a good thing to do is like, you know, when you're thinking about groove, I'm just talking about groove now and then we'll get into some questions, but when you're thinking about groove, it's like I always sing something. I'll sing like a bass line, a guitar, in my head. So when you're going, you know, any kind of weird like licks or anything like that, you're really hearing like just, you know, I'm still hearing, you know, some kind of like pulse, either whether it be a shaker going, so you just never get off. Well, I guess the reason why I'm talking about like the 2 and 4s because when my teacher told me that, I thought like, dude, come on, man, you know, I want a solo. Yeah. But I swear, the reason I'm still, you know, I'm like 4 years old right now, and I'm still playing drums and making a living at it, and not a bad one. So, I'm just trying to teach you like what got, you know what I mean? With like if you want to do it for real, that's all people, you know, want to get into is the time, you know, timing, your feel. Like what dictates what your vibe is. You know what I mean? They want to hire you for your feel and what your thing is. Like as soon as he played, I knew it was someone different than you. Mm-hmm. So just perfecting like where you feel things and stuff like that, you know. Where I was noticing mainly is just like, you know, when you start going off, I lose like, you know, what that feel is and what your vibe is. And then if you lose that, you know what I mean?
So
it's just like,
really important.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just in the spacing of the beats and how you interpret it or whatever. So, but you want to play? Yeah, okay, so again, like, you know, like right off what I noticed when you started, it was like you started adding stuff right away. And then it became like you're just adding stuff all the time instead of kind of going what I was suggesting, like, you know, lay it down solid. Then when you do something, you know what I mean, show it off. Then go back to the groove. Because after a while, it just starts to sound like, oh, somebody's just because we're talking groove here. I'm just saying, like, what groove is, you know what I mean? So, like, lay down, there's this drummer that plays, his name's Dennis Chambers. I don't know if you know Dennis. Yeah, I mean, he's my hero, right? And so, that's his vibe. I got it from him because I took some lessons, you know, and just like, his vibe is like, he'll lay down a groove, just the simplest thing, and then he'll do a lick that you're just like, what the? You know, like that just blew me out. Then he slips right back into the groove, and then you're just like, wow. You know, then it meant something. So I'd say right now, really quick, just do the same thing like he did. Just like lay the beat down, do something, then bring the beat back. Do something, then bring the beat back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just practice that for a second. Like it could be any lick you want, but instead of continuing the lick, like just bring it back to the 2 and 4. So it's like, oh, he did something. Now he's bringing it back because that's how you might set up a chorus, you know, a bridge to a song. So like you got your beat going, you're jamming, you do your fill, could be some fancy kind of vibe. Then you like, okay, now you're in the ride. Now they're in the chorus of the song, and you do something fancy. You come back. Instead of just like kind of flailing. Like that's sort of like kind of like almost like regimental type of thinking. I think it just makes it more, it's just like that's what I'm always thinking when I'm like playing. You know, I'm always thinking of like form and like, okay, I'm going to do something now and then I'm going to bring it back. then I'm going to do something, and then I'm going to go to the ride, then I'm going to do something, and then come back, instead of just like you're always just kind of. It's just like drums to me has got to be like a pulse. It can't, it's like there's certain things where you might do stuff that needs to be a part that you're like, that has like intricate patterns. But then I would always keep that solid too, you know what I mean? And then do something and come back to that. But right now we're just talking about 2 and 4, doing something, come back to the 2 and 4. Let me just see how your timing is when you do that. Okay. Stay at 2 and 4 for a second. Like right away I noticed you added a thing. Because seriously, because I've been in sessions where I'm with producers and they're like, no, dude, just play 2 and 4. And I'd be like, okay, boom, pop. Yeah. No, dude, 2 and 4. Just, I mean, you listen to even like Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. I mean, it's just going boom, 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 boom. They just want 2 and 4. And I get that down solid. Then, as you start adding stuff, it'll just be flavor, Start adding stuff and then go back. Yeah, don't lay it there. There you go. Now go back to that. Just 2 and 4. That was it. To me, I swear, dude, that sounded tighter just in general as a feel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope I'm not like, wearing you guys out with this, but I'm just trying to just show you that I swear, that's what got me every gig I got, is I go in there and I just lay it down. Then if they want me to show off, I could solo like a maniac. But before, that's what like, right there, to me, was a better feel. Yeah. And then you started adding licks that were more solid. Because I could just tell you were just like laying it down more instead of just kind of floating or whatever. But that was good. I mean, just think about that as, as a way of going back and forth. But let me check out you before. Right away, did you notice the difference in like feel from your feel or whatever? Like his feel was a lot, even though it was kind of like the same tempo, your feel was a lot more like laid back. Yeah. Your hi-hat was lazier. Yeah. You know what I mean? So even, when he was talking about, well, it's just 2 and 4, really I noticed the difference right away, and just the, not that anyone's worse, it's just more like that's your personality. You know what I mean? It was just a little more like, you had, it was swing. I can tell like you were swinging in your head more than you were like, so the licks you were doing and stuff were kind of just like swinging. You know what I mean? As far as like, technique, as far as like holding the stick, because I noticed. Let me see how because you get better tone and stuff and determine. His technique was pretty good as far as like where he holds, like the fulcrum, like would be there. I noticed yours was kind of more like this. You're kind of doing this thing like this or whatever. But the way that I found that you can get the most snap and stuff out of your is like if it's an extension of your arm. So instead of like this, kind of like, so it's like, it's like this, like an extension of your arm. you know, like holding it out like that. You kind of had that. Yeah, you kind of had it more like this. So while you were playing, you know what I mean? It had a better, it just, I find in the end, like, I noticed that you know, were kind of like this too. But my teacher right away said, like, you know, like keeping it like this as an extension of your arm, and this kind of lays right there, like in between, you know, this is the fulcrum. Yeah, like that. More than like this. I noticed especially you. Like, right now, I'm going to just do like single stroke rolls. Like, right, and that's your doubles, right. That's better. See how that's more, yeah, I just noticed when you were playing, you were kind of playing like this. You know, and like if you just start getting used to it being an exact extension of your arm, because then when you're playing, wherever your arm goes, it's just kind of like, that's what, instead of like this, it just starts to get like, it just looks, especially looks-wise too, it starts to look sloppier. You know, when it's an extension of your arm, it's definitely like more solid.
How long do you take lessons for?
I took lessons for about 10 years. You know, just like off and on. Like I said, you know, I started just on a pad for about 3 years. You know, just practicing. You know, and just like, you know, just like all those. Just practicing like that on a pad just the whole time. And then I got into, like I said, kick and snare, practicing, you know, the 2 and 4, AC/DC, just, or R&B, just any, you know, rock. I was listening to AC/DC because it's just so, you know, boom, ba, you know, it's like just that pulse. Or I just like put on some like R&B radio, play all the like, you know, this like the, you know, like that kind of like really like. You know, just like really slow, just like, you know, really just, you know. Like that's the simplest beat you can play, but to me it's the hardest, just going. You know, because it's got to be, if you waver a second, everybody hears it. Yeah. When, you know, when you're doing the jam and stuff, it doesn't really matter. But, so, you know, I just got into that, but I took lessons from the very beginning.
What do you do to practice now?
Now I just play.
You just play?
Yeah, because, you know, I was like practicing so much that my teacher was like, dude, just get in a band and play. So the reason why I'm showing you this Baião and Samba is because that's how I learned to play. I joined a Brazilian Samba band and went to Japan for a year, and we played 4 shows a night, 7 days a week, playing those kind of rhythms and doing that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's how I learned how to play. Was, you know, I just like joined a band or whatever.
What do you think about posture when you're going?
Well, yeah, my posture's horrible, you know, or whatever. I mean, it's like, because I'm always just kind of going for it. You know, I'm always leaned over or whatever like that. But, you know, what the way I like to I think, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, set up your drums a certain way to make it so it's like easier to play. But I think, you know, what makes like, you know, the individuality is like, you know, having a vibe. Like sometimes I like spend hours just looking at my kit. How am I going to set it up for this show? Or I'm joining this new band. What do I want to say with the way it looks? You know, so I'll just totally like sit there for hours and set it up. Then I'll get used to it. Because I think it's important. I think if everybody had a generic hit, then everybody would be like, well, what, you know, like you said about Neil Peart, he has his vibe and it works for what he does. As long as, you know, you're not doing something totally out of the ordinary and it's going to screw you up completely, you know. But in general, I like to have, you know, this at pretty much, you know, parallel. I don't I don't usually sit high enough to where I'm like, you know, I've seen dudes play ska music or, you know, just like weird. This guy, I think it was the guy in the Stray Cats, and he was literally like sitting this high playing, almost standing up. Wow. And he was ripping it up. So, you know, I mean, it was just like, whatever, he's got his vibe, so it was, you know, he was doing it. But I usually just say, you know, I think that if, like, you know, I try to, because my spine was getting messed up, because I like to have my snare kind of angled, and I was always playing like this, so my spine was kind of curving. And my doctor was like, dude, you gotta like sit up straight. So, I don't know, I mean, as long as, you know, your legs are like kind of parallel to the ground and you're kind of standing there, wherever everything else is set up, I just, you know, kind of say go for it. Do you guys know how to tune?
Yeah.
How do you do it? So what is, let's say this, like you were going to put this head on.
Well,
What would you do first?
first of all, I would get it set up, and then I would, you tighten it to a certain point before you actually have to start, screwing it on.
Yeah.
Until they're all even.
So you do it with your hands. That's
no,
what
I have a drum. Oh, to that point with my hands, yeah.
Yeah.
And then get a drum key and then do it opposite sides.
Yeah.
So it goes on evenly.
So
And then fine tune by putting it in the middle and going around.
yeah, just putting a little pressure on the drum. So let me take it back, and then I'll just, So what? Well, first of all, I get the drum head, and I crack the edges.
Yeah, that's true. Like some people set it on paint buckets after they put it on the drum, and they put it like natural.
Yeah, I usually just stand on
So
it.
you just stand on
Yeah.
it? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's a
doesn't-
drum. It's supposed to be, yeah. But no, I usually, but before I even do that,
Yeah.
I take the physical head, I hold it,
Uh-huh.
and you just crunch the edges.
Okay.
Because really, that's going to make or break
Really?
how fine, how like good the head is or whatever. Because you'll hear it crack.
Yes.
As you go around, it'll go.
Uh-huh.
I work it for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then I get it, and I just like, this is the head without the drum, and I'm doing this to it. I'm like, I'm cracking the edges, but this is it right here. And I get it to where it's just like, feels like, okay, I've worked this thing. It's like, before you're like gonna cook a piece of meat or something, and you're hitting it with a hammer, like you're tenderizing it.
Yes.
And then I put it on, and I always pretty much put, seems like it works the best is, putting the logo on the top of where you're going to play it. I mean, it just bugs the hell out of me when I go to a guy's drum set and it's like over here or something. It's just like, what the hell? But so anyways, I kind of put it like, always facing, like where I'm going to like play, like
Yes.
or whatever. So this one right now is a little off because I think I had it over there, but usually I put it like right there on that lug. Just for some reason, I don't know. That's just a tradition for me. But then I always tighten it by hand all the way around, just like this. Go all the way around. And like you were saying, after that's tight, then I work it again before with my hands. I just keep working it because that's just going to make it like, it just feels like, like it needs to sit in a certain spot. And if these things, if the edge of the head isn't completely flush around the actual bearing edge, it's just, you're going to hear, it's going to sound like a football, or it's going to go boom,
Yeah.
or boom, it's going to go up or down the tone. But so anyways, I guess once I tighten it with my hands, then I work it again, then you'll notice you can tighten it again. So I do it again, keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. You'll notice that you keep doing it and you can't do it anymore. Then I do what you say, I do like maybe a quarter turn, opposite sides, quarter turn, quarter turn, quarter turn, quarter turn, hit it, whatever, quarter turn, do it until, I think every drum has a sweet spot.
Yes.
I think every drum is different, and so I think it's like, you'll find where this drum's gonna sing.
Yeah.
Like where it just boom, and you're just like, man, that's bad, that's where it should sit.
Yeah.
And then as you start tuning it up, you'll notice you're choking it,
Yes.
and as you start tuning it down, you notice it'll start flapping.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is like what you were saying, once you get it tight and whatever, instead of just hitting it till you think it sounds good, hit it to where you think it sounds good, but then tune it up some more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Tune it up and hit it and go, oh, that doesn't sound right. Go back down. Then tune it down. You'll find that sweet spot. And what I've noticed that after I start doing that and know where that sweet spot is, I just notice that that's just where I can, I know the feel of the drum and I can do it every time. So, I mean, you pretty much seem like you guys all know how to do that. But what I've noticed is that getting it higher than I think it is, when I know it sounds good, so I know that's the sweet spot, and then lowering it and bringing it back up really seemed to help me to find out where that's where that drum should be.
Yeah.
Because, it's just like it only to me, it sounds really good in one spot. And that's just where I always tune. And people are like, oh, I tune my drums really high. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They'll be like, oh, I just crank them until they're like all like timbales. And I'm like, well, yeah, I can turn this drum up to where it's just going, it sounds like a timbale,
Yeah.
but that's not where it's supposed to be. So I kind of look at the drum and I say, okay, dude, this is where you sound the best. And that's just what this drum set sounds like. And I leave it. And if I want a higher pitched drum, I'll go get a Birch kit and I'll get higher pitched drums or something.
Yeah.
Instead of choking the drum, it just feels good in a certain spot. Yeah.
when you're playing with Primus or Guns N' Roses, how much do you work in paradiddles and all that kind of technique stuff you're showing when you're playing with them?
Well, what I've learned in any time I'm playing or I'm on stage, I don't think about anything except just the music. So, it's like, to answer your question, practicing those things, I don't think about that when I'm playing him at all. Not even for a second. Because I practice those things, they just kind of go to that. But when I'm doing that, I'm not thinking of those patterns ever. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
So it
just comes out. So it's kind of like learn it, use it, and then lose it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just kind of like I don't think about it at all. I just try to just go for it or whatever. But I'm listening to the music. I mean, like, I listen to, like, well, what is the bass player playing? Where is he putting the beat? I kind of look at it as, when I saw that cat in there programming, like the same way as programming. I'm just like, okay, what's the bass doing? Well, what do I want the kick drum to do here? Like, I don't just start jamming. Like, you know what I mean? I listen to, like, okay, the bass is playing that, okay. What am I, because I'm thinking, like, well, what's going to sound good against, I try to, like, think about it in terms of, like, well, if this guy's playing this, what am I going to play? And then once I hear that, I just let go. I never think, like, okay, I practiced the biome today. I'm going to use that because I know it. It's just like what feels right. And I've been on gigs where I'm kind of stuck. I'm just like, man, what the hell am I going to do? Like, this guy's playing this thing. They're all waiting for me or looking. And as soon as I just say, F it, and I just let go, the most natural thing always seems to be, once I get out of my head and stop thinking about, like, okay, I got to do this or I got to do that or this is the way I got to play this, and just go for it, it seems to always work, you know what I mean? And then I know that, okay, all the stuff I practiced helped, but it's not here right now. I'm not thinking, like, this is what I'm going to do right now or whatever. And I'm really thinking about just grooving it, you know what I mean? Just laying it down at first. Like, just, when I'm in doubt, I just play 2 and 4. And then it seems like everybody kind of picks up. Then I start adding little things. From there, you might think of, like, okay, maybe I'll add this with this, and it becomes this intricate beat, which is your own beat and your own personality. But I started from, because I don't know what else to play right now. Okay, well, that's kind of cool. Oh yeah, that guy's vibing off that, and that becomes the pattern. But it always started from just, like, grooving it. I guess I was just starting from the basic thing because that's what my teacher taught me, and I just realized that, I'm still here playing. Like, the phone hasn't stopped ringing, and I wonder why. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's because I played 2 and 4 solid. And then the rest just kind of, whatever. So.